Welcome back to Rooted and Rising, where we explore knowledge and insights from experts and professionals across different industries. Conversation that inspire growth, purpose, and well-being. Today, I'm joined by someone very special to me, Molly. Molly and I first worked together years ago on PTA board at an international school. And back then, I remember her calm, centered energy and her ability to bring people together in such an authentic way. So since then, her journey has taken her into the world of well-being and human flourishing. She's part of the world's first Masters in Happiness Studies cohort and a certified happiness trainer. Molly's work focuses on sustainable well-being, helping families and professionals apply the science of happiness in practical, lasting ways. Her approach isn't about quick fix. It's about understanding what truly sustains joy, purpose, and connection, whether that's around family dinner table or within an organization. So, Molly, I'm so happy to have you on Rooted and Rising today.
Hi, Tracy. I'm so honored to be here.
All right, let's dive in. So, you're part of the world's first Master in Happiness Studies program, which is such a unique and fascinating path. And what are some of the most compelling scientific findings that you've learned about what truly sustains happiness, especially compared to what people commonly believes that brings it?
Thank you. You have such questions. Thank you for asking that. During my study about happiness, I really did come across many interesting perspective shifting
Mm-hmm.
findings
Mm-hmm.
by just studying the science behind happiness. But one thing, if you say number one shocking finding was that a sustainable happiness is actually not a result of studying happiness. You know what I mean? It's
Mm-hmm.
it's 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 how we study the scientific findings, but the key is in how we internalize the findings into ourselves, kind of reflect our own life with the findings and also sustainable practice in each day that makes the happiness sustainable. So people have this interesting expectation when they hear, oh, you're a master in happiness studies. So does that mean you're happy all the time? Does that mean you have mastered happiness and that makes you happy all the time? And the answer is no, because we're just humans. And life happens. Life happens unexpectedly without, any warning. So what I find it is that I still go through the ups and downs in life, but with the tools and with the learning that I have gone through, I have more confidence that I have the ability to cope with
Mm-hmm.
difficult situations when it happens. And it really comes down to kind of daily practice of little things. So the study, the scientific finding was that when you say we go to a class of about well-being or about um, healing, we feel great afterwards, right? We're like, oh, that was so good. That was so informational. You come out of it and feeling great, but the next day it's kind of gone. We call it the honeymoon effect.
That's very true.
We yeah, we feel good about it, but then it goes away because we go back to the original pattern of however we were before. So to have the true shifting in life, we really have to put those little practice into daily bits.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the bit of little change in your daily behavior that makes a long-term sustainable growth
Yeah.
in your
Do
well-being.
do you have any examples of, or just quick examples of what's that daily bit looks like? And before
Mhm.
you answer that question, I'm also thinking, do you think happiness is an emotion or it's a state of mind, right? Because emotion
Mhm.
comes and goes, like you said, life happens. So we're not always going to be at that happy. I mean, because to me, emotion comes and go. It's impermanent. So you could
Hmm.
be feeling joyful. That's emotion. You could feel angry, fearful, frustrated. That's naming the emotion. What do you think happiness belong to?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good question because we all get to define happiness differently.
True.
Everybody can define their own happiness. But to
Correct.
me, happiness is not only about a happy emotion.
Right.
And we all love a happy emotion,
Right.
a positive, fun, warm
Right.
emotion. But we can have that 24/7. That's just
Correct.
part of being human.
Right.
We inevitably feel down when something happens. We feel defeated sometimes, we feel tired, we feel scared. Those are all our natural feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So I really love one definition that in happiness studies, about happiness was that
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of embracing the wholeness of being you, of us being humans, embracing, including emotions, including other aspects of life, for example, our spiritual well-being, our physical well-being,
Mm-hmm.
our, relationships,
Mm-hmm.
close relationship, family relationship, working relationship, our emotions and our, intellectual growth, all of that, and kind of what we feel passionate about, what we find flow in doing, all these things kind of make up the word happiness. It's not only one dimensional, but the key in there is to kind of embrace all the good and bad and embrace the positive and negative. That's
Yeah.
where it all starts.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
really
we cannot just cut it in half and say we only want the, top half and not the bottom half.
So true. And I really love how you bring both science and heart into this conversation, right? So in today's world, so many of us tie our senses of worth, to how much we achieve or how productive we are. And based on what you've studied and what we talked about, I think that's really related to the next question that I was thinking for you is that how can we cultivate happiness in a more of a natural and lasting way through awareness, mindset, or daily, small daily habits that
Mhm.
you touched upon a little briefly earlier?
Um, yeah, so to answer that question, that was kind of a bit of a shock to me too when I first heard this concept,
Mm-hmm.
but I really love it. It is to, to avoid chasing after happiness like a carrot. We we kind of in today's world we sort of put a goal and we achieve it. We put a goal and we achieve it. And sometimes we mistake that as happiness. And we kind of try to achieve happiness in the way that we're used to. But it's really not how happiness works. If we continue to chase happiness, thinking it's somewhere down the line, if I work hard enough, I'm going to get it, then we're going to miss the whole point. We're going to miss the whole point and we're going to get there and we're going to find nothing there. So I think number one principle to begin with in the journey is to kind of give up on the idea that I must be happy. I really like this concept because the minute you're not obsessed with happiness, you start to enjoy the moment and you start to embrace the imperfection in your life. And that's where it starts. So being not obsessed with, I must be happy, I must achieve happiness. That is a really good start.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think you actually you actually point out one of the deepest um, understanding, but at the same time, I do think it's a misconception of what most people believe through society or cultural norms is that we're chasing for what we call happiness. But a lot of times when you realize it's sometimes the suffering occurs because of
Mhm.
the chasing itself,
Yeah.
right? Um, and and in the Taoism that they talk about when you I mean not necessarily the quote, but I think in that general philosophy is when you don't want when you can give up on everything, that's when you have everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was going to mention Taoism.
Yeah.
It's so interesting when I studied happiness. I found that, the Western philosophy and the Eastern philosophy really come together.
Very come together. They actually really
Yeah.
integrate it into their own different ways. But
Mhm.
it's a it's very integrated. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So Taoism says being having the quality of water, right?
Mhm.
Just being that soft and you having no shape, you fit into all shapes.
Yes.
And by doing nothing, you can do everything, anything.
Yes.
So that's kind of a really good reminder to me as well.
Yes.
If we wake up and say, oh my gosh, why am I not happy yet? That is the wrong foot, to start
Yes.
with.
Right. So
Yeah.
whenever anyone who's listening or watching, and it's very relatable, we felt that. And so then now shift your perspective and don't think like that. Don't ask yourself, why am I not happy yet? And then if you study further about scientific related to the brain neurology or brain rewiring, you understand that uh, the brain is wired based on what you tell the brain to think, right?
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
is that is the really important thing. People think that the scientists mentioned that the brain cannot tell how you feel it's reality or it's what you're telling the brain to think. So
That's so true.
instead of tracing why am I happy, okay, just be happy. Just well, then don't think like that. I think as what Molly shared earlier, shifting your awareness, shifting your mindset, giving yourself small daily habit. I mean, we could. Yeah, I think in this small daily habit, I still kind of wanted to dive in a little bit, like what kind of give me one
Mhm.
and two example of what small daily habit look like
Mhm.
so that
Yeah, yeah.
mhm,
Yeah, let's get into the daily habits. It all comes down to little things you can do.
mhm,
But you, as a practitioner, can choose. It doesn't mean you have to do everything,
right.
but you can choose one or two to try with. And then if it doesn't work for you, you can choose a different set of few things and try with until you find that, a good routine or a good rhythm that works for you. So for me, I have tried many things. For example, exercising.
Mhm,
And this is a really interesting thing I wanted to share with you about exercising. I used to feel like, just like how happiness works, right? I used to feel like, oh, I have to exercise.
mhm.
You know, oh, I haven't exercised today. I have failed
Yeah,
in exercising. And so that gave me a lot of stress, kind of like feeling like a failure if I didn't exercise. But the way it worked for me was that I just if I remember to exercise in the morning, I just do it in the morning. If I don't do it in the morning, I do it in the afternoon. If I didn't get to do it all day, then I do 5 minutes of jumping jacks at the end. So having the flexibility for myself, kind of a peace of mind where I can just, my goal was to do it for 30 minutes. But if I only do it for 5 minutes, I recognize myself for that 5 minutes instead of thinking, oh my gosh, I have failed. So that mindset really helped me in keeping exercising in my routine. So, for example, I play tennis twice a week. I try to make it 3 times a week, but if I fall into like only once a week, I don't kick myself for it. I think that's how it works for me.
that's
Stop
great.
kicking myself for being an A student. You have to do it 3 times a week, and that was really helpful for me, which helped the routine of exercising stick to my lifestyle. And then uh, the next one was meditation. And it's also the same. Originally I tried meditation with music, without music, with guiding words, without guiding words, with Western music, with Eastern music, and all kinds of styles of meditation. Try to find And now my habit is that when I have a minute, I just sit. If I have 2 minutes, I sit with my eyes closed. I don't need a music. I don't need, uh, guiding words, but I just sit. And that stick with me, particularly because I have busy schedule. But if I have a minute to reflect on myself, to be with myself, that's what I do in meditation. That's really helpful. That's been really helpful for me. And other suggested ways of a daily routine would be, say, writing a gratitude diary for ourselves. I think it really helps, particularly when we're going through some hard stuff in life. So if we have a really tough day, at the end of the day, we just sit down and write down 3 things that worked for the day. Not what didn't work or what beat us up, but just 3 things that actually worked, 3 things that I still have and treasure. You know, um, that's really helpful.
Yeah, I love that.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah,
absolutely
and
agree.
yeah, and so just these little things, the solution always seemed really simple, but if you're gonna do it every day, it's not so simple.
Right. Yeah, I love everything you said. It's amazing. And I think the key here is that find what works for you. Find what works for ourselves. Everyone is different. Everyone have different work schedule, life schedule, right? Do something that
Hmm.
you could stick with. But at the same time, I think you point out a couple of really key factors here is one, it's a self-acceptance. You accept that you don't always going to have a perfect schedule, and that's okay. And you start learning the rhythm of your life, and you do it, you accepting that, and you flow with it, you flow with your rhythm.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
And then you also mentioned about they sound simple, but it's not easy to retain it. So the consistency is the key here. If you do those little things every day, every week, every month, right? So the effect becomes so much bigger than you could ever think of.
Yeah, you probably don't see an effect
Right
in the
away,
first 2 weeks.
right?
Yeah,
But
yeah, but
but
you start to feel it after maybe 2, 3 weeks.
right. And then I think we need to be faithful and hopeful that don't just quit when you don't see the result. Stick to it. Hard work will pay it off, or not hard work, or find the ways that what you enjoy. So work will pay it off, right? Great.
Yeah, so yeah, some people like to hit the gym at 4 a.m. If
Right.
they can sustain that, that's great. Some people like to do yoga, some people like to
Pilates
uh, Pilates, some
or
people like to
that.
write thank you notes to others. All these things are great. It's just, we just need to kind of find a consistency,
Yeah.
but try not to tell yourself, I'm going to work hard for this.
Yeah.
Working hard, if you feel like I'm working hard for this, it becomes hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, totally.